Read, 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 Mama leads the way to magical lands. Come join the play with every story we soar into, discovering worlds beyond our room.
Hey friends, it's me, Reid Tails, and I'm so excited you're here for another fantastic story. Today we're reading Finn McCool by Tomie dePaola, a legendary tale about a clever giant, a tricky enemy, and a little bit of magic. So, get comfy, open your ears, and let's dive into this adventure together. Finn McCool, the Giant of Knockmany Hill, retold and illustrated by Tomie dePaola. In olden times, when Ireland's glens and woods were still filled with fairies and leprechauns, giants too lived on that fair Emerald Isle. One of the finest of those big folk was Finn McCool, who was wed to the lovely great lass Unnach. They made their home on the top of Knockmany Hill. Now, as any good giant, Finn McCool had his work to do, so he was often away from home. Lovely Una didn't seem to mind, for there was plenty to keep her own hands busy, spinning, knitting, and even giving a pretty touch to their great house. Life was pleasant indeed. One morning when Finn McCool was busy working with his kin building a causeway to Scotland, the word came that Cuchulainn was coming. Cuchulainn was a giant too, and without a doubt the strongest in that part of the world. When he walked, the very earth trembled, and with one blow of his fist he had flattened a thunderbolt so it looked like a pancake. He was so proud of that feat that he kept the thunderbolt in his pocket to show all just how strong he was. Every giant in Ireland had been given a good beating by Cuchulainn. Every giant, that is, except Finn McCool. And Cuchulainn swore by the green that he would never rest. Day or night, winter or summer, until Finn McCool was added to his list. So far, Finn had been smart enough. He kept moving about whenever he heard that Cuchulainn was in the neighbourhood. But this time, Cuchulainn was sure to get him. So Finn left the causeway and sped off for Knockmany Hill, his house, and his darling Una. "Finn, my love," said Una, greeting him at the door, "what brings you home so early from your work?" "The chance to get a sight of you, my sweet thing," said Finn. Since he was honest as the summer day is long, he added, "And to keep out of the way of Cuchulainn. He's after me." Una soothed her husband. She brought him his slippers and lit a pipe for him. She stirred up the peat fire so it would be cosy. Then she set down a huge mug of stout and cut a gigantic slab of soda bread for her dearie. "Finn, husband of mine, enough is enough," said Una, as gently as she could. "For years, you've been hiking around from one place to another to avoid this Cuchulainn. Why, you even built our house high on this windiest of hills so you'd be able to spy him coming. You'll not get a moment's rest until you stand fast and face him." I'll be getting plenty of rest if I stand fast and he knocks me down. I don't have the heart to face a man who can make a young earthquake just with his walk and who carries a flattened thunderbolt in his pocket just to prove his strength. At that, Knockmany Hill gave a little dance. "He's coming," said Finn, his face turning a fine shade of pale green. "Now hush," said Una, "and give me time to think. Do you worry that I won't do all I can to help you settle this matter once and for all?" Unag then worked a charm that fairies had taught her. She took 9 woolen threads, each a different colour, and braided them into 3 braids. She put one around her right arm, one circling her heart, and the third around her right ankle. Now, nothing she did could fail. Next, she sent around to all the neighbours to borrow 1 and 20 iron frying pans. She hid them in 1 and 20 loaves of bread that she baked on the fire in the usual way. She set them in the cupboard with some bread she had baked the day before. She then took a pot of milk and made it into a fresh wet cheese and put it along with some white stones at the foot of the cradle she had made up. Now, my darling, she said, handing Finn some baby clothes. Put these on and do everything just as I'm about to tell you. And remember, she said at the last, Cú Chulain's strength lies in his brass finger he has on his right hand. Now quick, into the cradle, because I hear that man mountain at the door. All right, woman, bellowed the giant at the door. Where's that coward Finn McCool that I've been chasing after all this time? Well, well, said Una with her sweetest smile. Now isn't that a shame? Finn was off working on the causeway when some important family affair called him away. But he'll be home by tea time, so why don't you just come right in and sit down? Poor Finn trembled in the cradle. See this, Cú Chulainn said, pulling what looked like a pancake out of his pocket. This was a thunderbolt until I caught it and flattened it, and that's what I'm going to do to Finn McCool too. Tsk, tsk, said Una. That may not be as easy as you think. Finn McCool's a big broth of a man. Why, take a look at our little baby, and you might be getting an idea of the strength and breadth of Finn himself. Cú Chulainn peeked in the cradle. Chirrup, said the huge baby, looking back at him. My, said Cú Chulainn, what a big boy. While you're waiting, why not have a bite to eat? Said Una. She put some loaves of bread in the table, along with a can or two of butter and a pile of cabbages. Cú Chulainn, who was as much of a glutton as he was a bully, popped a loaf into his mouth and took a huge bite, right down on one of the frying pans. Clang! Yow! Shouted Cú Chulainn. What kind of devil's bread is this? Here are 2 of my teeth out. That's Finn's bread, the only kind he eats, said Una. It's a bit too tough for you. Too tough for me, shouted Cú Chulainn. I should say not. Just give me another. Cú Chulainn chomped into another loaf and into another frying pan. I'll not have a tooth left in my mouth, woman. There's 2 more out. Cú Chulainn hollered even louder. The baby began to holler too. Hungry, hungry, hungry. Ah, sweet dumpling, said Una, and she handed baby Finn a loaf, and because there was no frying pan in it, Finn ate it right down. More, said the baby, and he gobbled up another loaf. He seems a strong lad, said Cú Chulainn, getting a little worried. If this was the baby, the father must indeed be a bit stronger than Cú Chulainn thought. Ah, yes, said Una, beaming. Why, instead of dollies, he loves to play with those white stones there in the cradle. Show the nice man, baby dear. Finn did as he was told. He picked up a stone that was really the cheese and squeezed all the water out of it and popped it into his mouth and ate it down. Cú Chulainn was not to be outdone by a baby. He grabbed a stone and squeezed. He squeezed. And squeezed. Squeeze as he might, he couldn't get 1 drop of water out of it. He popped it into his mouth, and with a chomp, there went the rest of his teeth. The howl that came out of him almost broke all the windows. When he finally calmed down, Cú Chulainn said to Una, What kind of teeth does that lad have? They must be made of iron. Let me see your choppers, baby. A that? Baby Finn opened his mouth, and Cú Chulainn stuck in his brass finger, the very brass finger that was the secret of his strength. With a strong bite, Finn McCool bit the brass finger right off. Then up Finn leapt and began to pound the daylights out of poor, weak Cú Chulainn. That was that. Out the door went Cú Chulainn, never to bother anyone, let alone Finn McCool, again. Tea's ready, my love, said Una, and Finn McCool sat down with the best giant wife in the whole world. And they lived a long, happy life. About this book, stories about the popular Irish giant Finn McCool have been handed down from generation to generation. Perhaps Finn McCool is best known for the Giant's Causeway, the highway he built between Ireland and Scotland. The encounter between the Giant, Cú Chulainn, and Finn at Knockmany Hill is one of the funniest of Finn McCool's adventures. Details in the border art were inspired by early Irish jewellery and metalwork. Tomie dePaola has chosen to use William Butler Yeats' spelling of Finn McCool. Wow, what a great story. Today I learned that a causeway is a raised road across low or wet ground, just like the one in the story. Thanks for reading with me, and be sure to join me next time for another exciting adventure. Until then, keep exploring new words and great books.
Read, 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 Roma leads the way to magical lands. Come join the play with every story, soar and zoom, discovering worlds